Behold! My face is bald. Now that jump scare is out of the way, howdy! My name is Nonat, and videos are going to be a little weird going forward. We're hitting a mega heat wave over here in the Pacific Northwest, and it's just been really hot, so recording long, lengthy videos, like class guides, has been totally out of the equation for me, because by the 15 to 20 minute mark of recording, I am a horrible, sweaty mess. I guarantee you'll be able to keep an eye on my hair throughout this video, and it will be lower than where we started. So throughout this week, you'll probably be getting a lot of mid to short length videos in the realm of like 10 to 20 minutes tops, just to conserve my own bodily functionality. I'm also going to be chugging ice water this entire time. I just realized that you can't see I have a mini fridge over here that I was grabbing water, so the joke didn't work as well as I thought, but ice water. But I'm guessing you're not watching this video to hear me complain about heat and drink water. Too bad. This video is definitely catered, as the title suggests, towards beginners for Pathfinder 2e regarding a very special type of player. The loved and often under-respected support player. Now, Pathfinder's done a really good job of allowing most classes to not feel like just the healer or the support. Even classes like clerics and bards have a lot of opportunities to deal damage and debilitate enemies without just feeling like a heal bot. So the word support has a lot of meaning in Pathfinder 2e, and so I'd like to provide 5 beginner tips for support players in Pathfinder 2nd edition. Some of these are going to be healing focused to teach you how to squeeze a little bit more healing out of your sessions, or there might be some tips in here to help you fight a little bit better as well. So scroll down on this video, click that like button, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and a huge shout out to all of the members of the Nonat1's Patreon. If you would like to get your name on this list and support me like all of these incredible people, there is a link in the description you can click on. It's because of them I can afford water. I got this out of a tap. I put it in a jug. So let's get into this before I become a literal puddle. Tip number 1. This is the most obvious tip for support characters and doesn't even have to be done on support characters as long as you are trained in medicine. And that is to remember that treat wounds can be done every single hour. Treat wounds right at level 1 is a DC 15 medicine check to restore 2d8 hit points. That is like a solid heal spell of healing. Every single character can benefit from treat wounds every single in-game hour. It does take 10 minutes to apply, and luckily that 10 minutes does count as part of the hour cooldown. So every single hour, depending on how many members of your party there are, you can spend a good 30-40 minutes patching everybody up. And if people are still too injured and you have the time, you can spend another hour waiting and then patching everybody up to heal a little bit more. Really useful if you're not in a rush to get anywhere, but you don't want to have to stop and long rest to get all your heal spells back. Also great for conserving heal spells in the first place. And as you level up, keep an eye out for 2 skill feats in particular. They are by no means required, but they are fantastic upgrades if you are using your medicine skill a lot to treat wounds. The first one is called Battle Medicine, and this thing is borderline overpowered. Once per day, per person, you can treat wounds for a single action in the middle of combat. Just immediately. One action, choose the DC, roll it. If you beat the DC 15 for basic medicine checks, you can just heal 2d8 in the middle of combat with no magic, using no items. It's incredible. And you can do this for each of your party members once per day. Phenomenal. And it doesn't even need to be in combat. If somebody is bleeding out even post-combat, you can run up to them and slap them with one action healing. It's incredible. Also fantastic for saving in-game time is the feat Continual Recovery. Let's say only one member of your party got really beat up and you want to heal them before you move on to the next stage of the dungeon or the encounter or whatever. By default, if you want to treat wounds on them twice, it's going to take 70 minutes. 10 minutes for the first treat wounds, 50 minutes to wait for the cooldown to go off, and then 10 more minutes to treat wounds again. However, with Continual Recovery, that cooldown becomes 10 minutes, which is still included in the 10 minutes you spend patching them up. So you can just chain treat wounds on the same target. Suddenly, you can treat them every 10 minutes rather than every hour, meaning you can heal 2d8 per 10 minutes rather than 2d8 per hour. Phenomenal healing economy, and when you're dungeon diving, the DM can do a lot in the dungeon if you say, we're taking an hour to rest. However, if you say we're taking 10 minutes to rest, chances are the DM might not be able to do as much with the monsters farther down. Step number 2, it's very hot. Most classes in Pathfinder 2e have an infinitely renewable source of spells called focus spells. Use them. This might sound like really obvious advice, especially if you're already a veteran at the game, but I've played with a lot of different groups of a lot of different people, and especially beginners forget about their focus spells, or they don't use them because they're scared they might need them later, and they might forget, oh, I can get these back in a 10-minute rest. Even if we're traveling, I can just focus on praying to my god, or polishing my shield, or meditating, or whatever, to get that focus point back. So usually for me, if I'm in a long encounter, before I even start dipping into my spell slots, I use my focus spells first, because if I get lucky, maybe the combat will end before I've even used all my focus spells, and I can save my spell slots for later, or I can only use my spell slots in a dire circumstance. There's so many great ones. The champion gets lay on hands to heal people, clerics get a wide assortment, same with witches, wizards have some incredibly powerful focus spells, monks can do some crazy stuff with focus points. Almost every class that has focus points have incredible abilities that use them. So use them! Don't save them. They're so easy to get back. They're not once per day. Think of them as once per encounter. And then every time you get a new focus spell, you increase your number of focus points to 2, and then to 3 at the maximum, meaning you can get up to 3 of these per encounter. And focus spells that can heal hit points, or cure conditions, or debilitate opponents, those are phenomenal, because even if they fail in some way, you can still get them back. Use your focus spells. Don't forget about them. Tip number 3. Could you tell I was back here? Conditions are infinitely powerful in Pathfinder 2e, but that is not the tip. No, this tip is about one condition in particular, and that is the frightened condition. If you're unaware, frightened makes it so the target loses -1 to all checks and DCs. And as a reminder, that includes saving throws and armor class and attack rolls. What's the easiest way to get the frightened effect on a target? Demoralize. In my opinion, Demoralize is the single strongest skill action in Pathfinder 2e because you can just level an opponent down -1 for an entire round until the end of their next turn, including lowering their armor class. So what is this tip for supports? Well, this tip goes out to pretty much everybody. If you're going to demoralize a target, make it the first action you do. This sounds obvious, but as someone who's been playing for 4.5 years, I always forget. Literally, even in the session I played last night, I keep making the mistake of attack, attack. What do I do with my third action? I guess I'll demoralize. Whereas if I had demoralized first and succeeded, then both of my attacks would have been against a lower armor class. Hell, even if you're a spellcaster like a bard who probably has a crazy intimidation check, if you're gonna make a target make a saving throw against a spell, intimidate them first. Demoralize, if you succeed, they're frightened. If you crit succeed, they're frightened too. -2 to everything. And that makes their saving throw even more likely to fail. Very simple tip, but something I see done wrong a lot. Always demoralize first if you're going to demoralize at all. This is another simple tip, but something I've seen done wrong by a lot of beginners. Consider active bonuses. As a reminder, Pathfinder 2e uses a very, very solid 3 bonus system. There are only 3 types of bonuses in Pathfinder: item, status, and circumstance. Item bonuses come from items like magic enchanted items to boost certain abilities. Status bonuses typically come from spells or passive effects like the Blessed spell or the Bard's Rallying Anthem. And then circumstance bonus come from certain sets of circumstances, such as raising a shield is a circumstance because the shield is now between you and the enemy. This is important because each individual character can only benefit from one bonus of each type. If you get +2 status bonuses to damage and +4 status bonus to damage, you're only getting +4 status bonus to get damage. The heat's getting to my brain. These do not stack to become 6. You will only ever benefit from the single best bonus affecting you of a given type. So think about this when A, possibly planning your party out, and B, preparing spells for the day. If you're a cleric, but you know the party has a bard with Rallying Anthem, you don't need to prepare Bless, because Bless just gives +1 to attack rolls, which the bard's Rallying Anthem already does. You don't want to worry about wasting a spell slot or having a dead spell prepared if it overlaps with something else your party can do. Now, it's not useless because maybe your bard gets incapacitated or you're far enough away from each other that your effects don't overlap, but most of the time you want to keep an eye on bonuses. Keep an eye on what's active, what's prepared, what's available, so that you can plan accordingly. As a cleric, you could take something like Protection instead to increase someone's armor class and let the bard boost their attack rolls. It's a very simple idea, it's a very simple tip, but I've seen people waste actions because they thought they were helping each other when in reality, they were just not stacking the same effect. This 5th tip is interesting, and it goes against everything it means to be a support character, but I think it's super important. Whether you're playing a bard, or a divine witch, or a cleric, or an oracle, don't be afraid to attack. It's fine. You don't have to heal every round. You don't have to buff every round. Sometimes it's fun when you see an enemy as a cleric that you know they're evil, just shoot a divine lance out at them. You know, if you're a bard, cast a haunting hymn. Have some fun. If you know that your party doesn't need to be buffed or healed this turn, everybody's well over half health, and it's your turn, maybe spend an action moving into a good position and then shoot out an offensive cantrip. Our cleric in our current Kingmaker campaign prepares tons of offensive divine spells, like Ray of Light or something like that. I'll put it on screen, I'll find it. And it's awesome. We were sitting there fighting this Luca demon for a while, and she steps in and just blasts it with holy light and then peppers it with a crossbow shot afterwards. Nat 20's the crossbow shot and last hits it. This thing erupts in like divine energy and just turns to ash. It was freaking rad. Just because you're playing a support character does not mean you're not allowed to attack too. I forgot to say tip number 5. And there you have it, 5 really simple beginner tips for support characters. Some of these apply to any character. It's important information to have, knowing how status bonuses work, knowing how all bonuses work, knowing how focus spells work, knowing how everything in the game works helps a lot. Pathfinder is definitely slightly a game of knowledge. However, I want to say also that this does not mean you have to be perfect to win. In fact, there is no winning Pathfinder. If you're trying to win, you're not necessarily playing wrong, but you're not playing the way that the game was intended. There's a big thing going around saying that if you're playing Pathfinder, you need to min-max, you need to know all the rules, and you need to play correctly. Well, no. No, you absolutely do not. If you are dying and being killed because of it, that's because your GM is choosing to enforce incredibly harsh rules and throw things at you without thinking of the players. And if your table did not agree to play that way, that's not the system's fault. So, even though these tips can be super helpful, don't think you need to remember all of them all the time to enjoy the game, because you don't. Because at the end of the day, this is a game about role-playing and playing make-believe collaborative storytelling with our friends around a table. Or online, unfortunately, most of the time these days. But let me know what you think. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and send it to somebody that you think might need to hear these tips. I really appreciate it, y'all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay cool out there. And until next time, sweaty nat ones.